From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
We're back, and we are heading to Sacramento, California for our next story. This comes to us via the local ABC, Fox, and NBC affiliates there. Possible vehicle explosion in an unoccupied vehicle that was parked in a neighborhood in Sacramento, California. And it was just strange. It was weird. It was a little blip on the radar, right? We look for these strange news segments every week, and we see all kinds of weird little stuff, and it just pops on our radar. And that's what this was in this case. And it was very strange. Let me just read to you from the Sacramento Police Department's Facebook page what they said about it. Quote, Sacramento Police Department patrol officers responded in this area regarding a possible explosion. The officers located an unoccupied vehicle with significant damage consistent with an explosion occurring inside the vehicle. What? That's weird. An unoccupied vehicle that exploded from the inside. Okay, that's a bit puzzling just at the start, right? Mm-hmm. Unless there was like a window open or something that an explosive could be dropped in to an unoccupied vehicle, or unless the person who, owned the vehicle set off an explosive inside of it. Or there could also be a scenario where it was, someone opened the door through force or something and then placed an explosive. Just very strange. But the San Francisco Police Department looked into that and nothing really happened until another unoccupied vehicle exploded. And they were called out, and they say it on their Facebook post here as well. Just very strange. They conducted an extensive investigation, and they were able to determine there were no injuries, and they believe it was a homemade explosive device that was used to detonate both of those vehicles in Sacramento. So, guys, when you're just in your neighborhood or hanging out in wherever you live, and you hear a little pop or a fairly large explosion, would you ever think that it could be a vehicle exploding?
Yeah, only because I've seen it happen.
You have?
Mm-hmm.
Like from malfunction, overheating, or something like that? Or
yeah,
what?
Yeah, from poor vehicle maintenance. Nothing like, Grand Theft Auto RPG launch or anything. But yeah, so not due to criminal activities, but definitely. I think I just kind of assume everybody's seen an explosion like that. Like even the remnants when you're in traffic or something. No. Wow. Maybe I need to move to your neighborhood. Matt.
No. There's gang activity all over on that side, and then an airport on that side. No, it's terrible. There's loud pops all the time, and airplanes.
We should also point out this has got to be common in other cities, but there's the famous unofficial ongoing game in Atlanta called Fireworks or Gunshots, right? That's just a related thing when you're asking. But for many people, the thing is, you don't have to be a ballistics expert or a fireworks expert to understand the difference between the sound of a gunshot and the sound of an explosion. Explosions sound very different, right? So what was the, do we know like the magnitude of these explosions?
I don't know that I've got officially the magnitude. They were enough to explode the vehicle where when the police officers arrived on the scene, they could tell that both vehicles had an interior explosion where there are pieces of the vehicle, all over on the ground, and there were witnesses who heard or experienced the explosion. They quote, both cars were severely damaged. And the crazy thing at the time, in that particular neighborhood in Sacramento where this occurred, both explosions were less than 0.4 miles away. So this was a localized thing. So if you're living in that neighborhood, you're thinking, oh, Lord, either our vehicles are just deciding to self-explode or somebody is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out only a few days later, somebody was doing this, at least according to the Sacramento Police Department and their findings. And this is the Oak Park area of Sacramento. They arrested a 23-year-old man on felony charges linked to both of these explosions. This man, I'm going to name him. He was named in ABC News
and CNN and the department named him.
Yes. Yeah, as well as the Fox website and other places that I looked at. They're naming him as Cody Wiggs. And he was being held, at least as of this recording, is being held without bail in Sacramento County Jail. And it's just very strange that this guy was just setting off pipe bombs. They were pipe bombs that he generated, that he created, and was setting them off in unoccupied vehicles. And it doesn't appear that there's any rhyme or reason, at least not based on the writing that I've seen on the investigation, unless there's, something that they haven't mentioned yet in the news as of this moment.
So this sounds like it could be an episode of Law and Order. As a matter of fact, I feel like I've seen an episode of Law and Order about people bombing these vehicles, but it's so much trouble to go through to make a pipe bomb, to stay off the radar, to not get caught planting them, to get away with two. It seems like the police know that the guy was planning to do more, right? He was still building pipe bombs actively, but because it's so much trouble, it's not an impulsive thing, right? There is usually some sort of rhyme or reason, unless the person is one of those arsonists who is just like fundamentally psychologically bound to create explosions on some primal cognitive level.
Yeah, we don't know much about this Cody Wiggs person. We do know that he was carrying a concealed dirk or dagger and faces misdemeanor charges on that.
What's the difference between a dirk and a dagger, Matt? As a fantasy fiction dragon dungeon enthusiast, can you explain this to us?
Well, now this is tough for me. I'm not going to give you the, I'm sure you can look up, Ben, hopefully you can look up and tell us the difference, but it's a dirk in my mind is very much a stabby thing.
Yeah.
It's to be stabbed.
It's
a dagger,
It's a kind of dagger, right? Like a maze is a kind of puzzle. A dirk sounds like it, for some reason, I think a lot of people think of like a spear or something like that, but a dirk is like originally from Scotland. So it's a kind of dagger from there.
Yeah. It appears to be, Dr. Internet tells me that it appears to involve a sheath most of the time and has a guard on it, so it is almost like a miniature sword. Whereas a dagger can be more utilitarian, probably. Although I always think of dagger as stabby as well, but it can also be slicey.
Again, yeah, think of a dagger is a term, just like puzzle is a term, and a maze is a sort of puzzle, just the same way that a dirk is a type of dagger.
That's so great. See, it's so funny. In my mind, it goes back to Ultima Online. Mm-hmm. And in Ultima Online, there are two different, I'm just going to say this because it's what my mind is doing, and I apologize to everyone listening, but there are two different skills that you can learn. One is piercing, where it's like stabby things, and the other is slashing, which is like swordy things. Mm-hmm. And that's what I imagine. Dirk is more stabby, dagger more slashy.
I found something interesting about Cody Wiggs. It looks like he was arrested in 2017 as well, when he was just 18, along with a guy named Jesus Enrique. They found a loaded firearm and drugs, meth, in Wiggs's possession, and then his pal Enriquez also had some sort of narcotics. So this guy is familiar with the law enforcement system, or I should say they're familiar with him. This is not his first time out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now, Matt, honestly, I have to maybe reassess my initial take when I said this is a lot of planning. people usually have motivations in play, whether they're, like ideological or financial, what have you. But when meth enters this scenario, we don't know. We don't know what those motivations could be, because meth does such crazy things to the mind,
Yeah, it just depends on if they're users or if they're trying to traffic it in some way, or both. Anyway, this is just a weird story, and I feel terrible for anybody living in that neighborhood that had to go through 2 seemingly random vehicle explosions. That's not a fun thing to go through. I hope that doesn't happen again. If you hear anything more about this story, we'd love to hear from you, or maybe you're in the neighborhood, you got some more information, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you've got more information on celebrity NFTs, I mean, we're always down to hear about that, or maybe cartel activities with the produce in your area.
Yeah.
You can contact us in a number of different ways.
Yeah. Tell us what other industries are getting leaned on by the cartels. Tell us what news about the cartels is not making Western media, because there is a lot there that's still kind of hidden in the shadows of discourse.